Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Karim Khan. He is the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. He joins us from the court in The Hague. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Khan.
No, I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you, Mark.
Well, this Friday, the ICC issued 2 arrest warrants regarding the investigation you had launched a year ago on Ukraine. And one of the warrants is against Russian President Vladimir Putin himself. The other is against the Russian Commissioner for Children's Rights, Maria Lvova-Belova, for war crimes, especially the unlawful deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia. How historic is this day for the ICC?
It's an important day. It's not driven by being historic. It's being driven by the evidence. But it's, of course, also a sad day that a head of state, a commander-in-chief of a large, powerful and hugely important country that is a permanent member of the Security Council has had a warrant issued against him. And I think that should bring no joy to anybody. It is a sobering moment and a moment, though, that shows that the law is not a spectator or absent, but the law must constrain certain behavior and that no individual has a free pass to commit crimes that are within the court's jurisdiction, and particularly genocide, war crimes or crimes against humanity. So it's an important day. It's the first time ever a head of state from a P5 has been charged, and also it shows that the office is moving with more nimbleness in the midst of bullets and bombs and a war zone that is Ukraine.
Right. The Kremlin spokesperson said the arrest warrant, I quote him, is outrageous and unacceptable. I assume you expected such a reaction.
Whether I expect it or not, those kind of utterances don't really move me. What I always advise any individual that disagrees with the law is to surrender to justice and make your case, not to me. I'm simply the prosecutor. We have independent and impartial judges that have shown themselves fearless and absolutely able to separate fiction from fact. And the case should be made to the judges. So if one thinks, if any party, if any suspect thinks a case is frivolous, appear before the court, make your case to judges, have the confidence to do so, and that's the way due process works.
What does it change concretely for Vladimir Putin, this arrest warrant issued by the ICC?
I beg your pardon, I missed the first part of the question.
What does it change concretely for Vladimir Putin, this arrest warrant issued today?
I'm not sure what it changes for him personally. What it emphasizes is that the International Criminal Court has moved. We've done our job at this stage in relation to this aspect of our investigation. And the judges have scrutinized it and issued the warrants. Now, what it does mean is that the world's only permanent International Criminal Court have issued warrants for him and Madam Lvova-Belova, and that, of course, has some implications in terms of the obligation of states to cooperate with us, but also in terms of the integrity of the types of evidence that we've heard about and has been written about by others, that judges have looked at it and there is a case here to answer.
Right.
What the ripple effects are, time will tell.
Right. Obviously, maybe this gathering of evidence has been facilitated by the fact that Russia very openly says, yes, we're bringing children because it's essentially a humanitarian gesture. And so we're calling for people to adopt them. Mrs. Lvova-Belova publicly called for Russians to adopt children. Vladimir Putin makes it easier for them to become Russians. So it's a low-hanging fruit, if I may use the expression, for the ICC.
Well, what international law prohibits is the deportation or unlawful transfer of civilians. And children are the most vulnerable group. The International Committee of the Red Cross, the commentaries, also emphasize the importance and the margin of protection that must be given to children. Now, one has to establish, if, as an occupying power or party to a conflict, that children are in jeopardy in a particular location. And if they are moved, of course, Ukraine is a large country, one would expect children to have been moved to Ukraine. If that, for whatever reason, was not possible, the Geneva Conventions and the commentaries emphasize neutral third countries can be approached who can give safe haven. But instead, a policy seems to have been decided upon and a course of conduct embarked upon in which these children have crossed international boundaries. And not only that, they are being taught not Ukrainian but Russian. They're being given passports and they are being given for adoption, even though they have family members in Ukraine, that their familiar environments were in Ukraine, and this is not allowed in the view of the prosecution. And that case, that thesis, has given rise to the warrants by the judges of Pretrial Chamber 2 of the International Criminal Court.
Right. You've also been looking into the targeting by Russia of Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. Is this the next area where you will be acting upon?
No, I don't telegraph the areas. What I said in Bucha, in fact, in April of last year, when I went to Bucha and Borodyanka, is that Ukraine, unfortunately, has become a crime scene. There's numerous allegations. Some of your viewers would have seen allegations of unarmed soldiers that have been shot. There's been the well-publicized allegations regarding Mariupol and the maternity ward and the theater. There's allegations of torture regarding prisoners of war, sexual and gender-based violence, and also, of course, attacks against civilian objects. Kharkiv is an example, or also the infrastructure. So our job is to try to focus our resources as effectively and as intelligently as possible to get to the truth, to examine as we are required to do. And it's a wonderful gift, in fact, from the civil law system under Article 54 of the Rome Statute to look at incriminating and exonerating evidence equally, not to get a result, but to get justice, to get to the truth, which we can then evaluate and, if necessary, present to the judges. So all areas of potentially criminal activity are areas of interest to my office. We will focus our resources based upon a variety of factors to make sure that the law is seen to be as effective as possible. My own view, and I've said it for years, even before my election, the law can't be absent from areas of hostility, from areas of abuse. We need to be more nimble. The men and women of my office have worked fantastically well in a war zone. We've built novel and important partnerships with Eurojust, with the Joint Investigative Team, with national authorities, and most of all also with the government of Ukraine. And I've also tried several times to reach out to the authorities of the Russian Federation because I have no political agenda. My office is not political, this court is not political, this court is a child of Nuremberg. Our obligation is to try to apply the law fairly, independently and impartially. That's what we've done and that's what we will continue to do.
Right. Ukraine has been pushing to set up a special tribunal to try the crime of aggression against Russia. Obviously, the main argument being that Vladimir Putin cannot be brought before the ICC. So we need this special tribunal. And a rising number of countries have supported it. The European Commission has opened a kind of office in The Hague where you are. I know you were not in favor of that. Today's warrant against Vladimir Putin, is it a way for the ICC to say we can go to the very top, we don't need other mechanism to do so?
Well, we're not writing the Rome Statute in real time. The Rome Statute was written 25 years ago this year and signed in Rome. And from that period onwards, Article 27 has made it crystal clear that there's an irrelevance of official capacity, that diplomatic immunities and other types of immunities don't bar the world's only permanent international criminal court from exercising jurisdiction. So that was known to every law student from the beginning. And today's decision by the judges simply emphasizes something that was known to everybody regarding the jurisprudence of the court and the ability to charge and issue warrants against even heads of state or heads of government. But that is not why we've done it. We've followed the evidence, and that's our basic fundamental responsibility as officers of the court. And we submitted that with all humility, but with as much diligence and scrutiny as possible to the independent judges of the ICC, who also independently reviewed it, and that led to the decision that they rendered today.
Just very as a conclusion, you opened the investigation a year ago. You submitted to the pretrial judges those warrants just a couple of weeks ago, and they've acted today. This has not been what the ICC did for years. It's been accused of being slow and behind and so on. I mean, is this a new era for the ICC?
I think collectively the ICC has been looking how to improve itself. I've said repeatedly that the office I lead has to be more nimble and more effective and find ways to make the law have an impact. But the judges have been reforming and improving their processes, and indeed the state parties have encouraged the court to do that, which gave rise to the independent expert review report that was submitted in September 2020. So collectively, I think we realise that great achievements have been done over the last number of years regarding the rule of law, but the rule of law and the operations of the International Criminal Court collectively need to be rendered more effective, and that's a work in progress. I think collectively we're doing our best to make the law relevant to those that need it the most. And I think we have a way to go, but there's progress, and that needs to be recognised as well.
Karim Khan, Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, I want to thank you very much for appearing on the France 24 interview from the headquarters of the ICC in The Hague. Thank you all for watching it.